Hi, and welcome to this video on pushing content from Kentico Cloud to the new smartwatch from Fitbit, the Fitbit Ionic. My name is Michael Kincaid, aka Me and My Robots. I am a Kentico MVP and CTO of Eccentric Arts, who are a digital agency based in Toronto and Ireland. For those of you not familiar with Kentico Cloud, it's a content publishing microservice, or in other words, a CMS in the cloud. It's a headless CMS, if you'll excuse the geek speak. Basically, that means it provides a place for editors to create and manage content, the backend UI. This is all done in the browser. There's no pesky software to install, upgrade, or maintain. As for development, well, you create the actual app that displays the content. You do this by calling the fabulous Kentico Cloud REST API, which you can do with any technology that you want. In the past, I've connected Kentico Cloud with websites, so desktop and mobile. I've also pushed content to devices like home assistants such as Google and started playing around with VR. Basically, in the Internet of Things era, your content can go anywhere that you need it to. I recently got a new smartwatch, and you guessed it, one of the first things I wanted to try was making an app and pushing content to it. This is where the new Fitbit Ionic comes in. The Ionic is the first smartwatch by Fitbit. It does all the cool stuff you'd expect from a Fitbit, like track absolutely everything possible about your physical activity, or lack of. But being a smartwatch, it not only runs apps developed by Fitbit, it can also run third-party apps built by developers. Now, to be clear, I'm not associated with Fitbit in any way or being paid by them for this video. I just happened to have a Fitbit Ionic because I got a little bit chunky and wanted to gamify not being so chunky. As for why I went with the Ionic, well, I didn't want to spend around 500 Canadian dollars on another well-known smartwatch that has a battery which lasts a day. The Ionic lasts me around 4 or 5 days, which is great. On to the app, which has the very imaginative title of Daily Trivia. The app displays facts about the day, if anyone famous is having a birthday, that sort of thing. High level, we're dealing with the following. All of our content, the facts, and the birthdays are going to be created and managed using the free subscription of Kentico Cloud. Now, our app is going to want to get the content for today. It is called Daily Trivia after all. This is where the paired smartphone comes in. The watch and the phone can chat away to each other over Bluetooth. The watch can ask the phone to go out to the internet and grab some data. More on this later. In our case, we're going to securely call Kentico Cloud for the day's content using their API. This will give us our content in a data format called JSON, which the phone can then send over to our app, and hey presto, we can now show our trivia. Now say you turn the app on again during the same day. Well, in order to speed up our app and not constantly call Kentico Cloud when we don't need to, our content won't change after all for 24 hours. The first time we get the content, we store it locally on the watch using the built-in file system. And the next time we run the app, we load the data from our cache. Now, we'll get into this in a lot more detail, but before we do, let's actually have a look at the app. Here's my Fitbit Ionic. I'm just going to go and scroll through my apps. And here's my daily trivia. So the first thing it's going to do is reach out to Kentico Cloud via the phone and get the content for today. And here we've loaded our trivia and birthdays. Trivia. Here's a couple of facts for the 29th of January. And we also have birthdays as well. Happy birthday, Oprah, Tom Selleck, and so on. So again, this content is all managed in Kentico Cloud. Now the second time I come in and start up the app, now we're not going to reach out to the cloud because we already have the data locally and things run a lot quicker. Again, here's the information stored locally. In terms of how our app is built, let's first go check out Kentico Cloud to see how content is created and managed. Here's Kentico Cloud. You can start a free trial, or if you want, there are other subscription options available. You do get a lot in the free, and that's currently what I'm using for the app. Things like multiple users, workflow, roles, and much more. Now I'm going to sign in. And here we are within Kentico Cloud. Let's first check out the content model that was created for our app. As you can see, it's very simple. I've got birthdays, I've got facts, and I'm bringing them all together in what's referred to as a daily feed. If we have a look at birthday, you'll see we've got name, age, description. With Kentico Cloud, it's very easy to build out content types. You can add all different types of content elements. With the fact, we've got title, we've got a factoid, and if we look at the daily feed, you'll see that we have a date, which is how we're going to query, and we've got a group of facts and birthdays as well. And they're referred to as modular content. As you'll see here, we're saying facts are required. At most, we're going to have 5, and we're limiting this to just the fact content type. Now let's go look at some content. Here's the content inventory, and you can see all the content that I've created just for the 29th of January. I can filter this by workflow state, by publishing state, everything's currently published, and also by content types. If I'm really interested in looking at birthday information or just say my daily feed, then I can filter it here. So go ahead and have a look at a daily feed for the 29th. You'll see that I've set the date, and I've also got my facts that you saw in the app and also my birthdays as well. If I wanted to, I can come in here and I could create a new version and change the content. And then whenever I'm done, I can then go and push this through to whatever workflow stage. I'm just going to make it published. I'm going to publish it now. In terms of getting this content out, I can simply do that by making a REST API call. Here I am in a little tool called Postman. And you can see I'm going to call through to the delivery API, and I'm going to query it for today's date, 29th of January. I click send, you'll see the JSON that's being returned. I've got my date, I have my facts, I've got my birthdays. I can come in here and I can see the information. Now let's check out the Fitbit Ionic app. The watch runs FitbitOS, and apps are built using SVG for the user interface, which you can style with CSS. Apps run JavaScript, and there's support for ES6 and TypeScript. When the app is built, all the scripts are automatically compiled, bundled, and optimized by the compiler, which produces an ECMAScript 5 file. In terms of the application folders, we have the following: App, Resources, Companion, Settings, and Common. The app folder lives on the watch and contains all the application logic that runs on the device. The Resources folder also lives on the watch and contains the SVG, images, and CSS. The Companion folder runs on the smartphone. Code in this folder has access to the Companion API, which is capable of doing things like making direct requests to the internet and communicating directly with the Ionic. The Settings folder, which lives on the smartphone, is kind of cool and contains a declaration of application settings written in React.jsx. This can be used to make the app on the Ionic configurable. For example, I could have had a setting to allow users to decide what type of trivia they are interested in, maybe phase 2. Finally, there's the Common folder, which, as the name suggests, lives on the Ionic and also on the smartphone. When the app is built, there's actually 2 JavaScript files that are created: a bundle with all the Ionic code delivered to the watch, and a bundle with all the companion code that's delivered to the smartphone. Though having companion code is totally optional, you can create an app that just runs on the Ionic and has nothing to do with the smartphone. So if you want to get into developing for the Ionic, dev.fitbit.com is definitely the place to go to learn all about FitbitOS. There's Getting Started overview, which will get you up and running. There's also guides, which is great documentation on all different areas of the OS. You can come in, have a look at things like the user interface, and you'll get example code for each area that the guide is walking you through, which is really helpful. There's also a community. You can check out the developer blog and also the community forum, which is pretty active. I got a lot of good support here whenever I was building the application. So you can definitely, if you have any problems, you can ping a question here and someone will get back to you and sort of set you on the right path. When it comes to developing the application, there's actually a cool web tool for doing that called Fitbit Studio. So let me start this off and you'll see some of the apps I've been working on. Here's the daily trivia app. So this is a little online IDE where I can come in and I can actually start to code up my application. I can then connect to my phone and my watch, and I can run and push builds and test on the device itself. Each app has a package.json file where you can configure the application itself, say things like name, the type of app. You can build apps or you can build clock faces. You can also make requests for certain types of permission. For example, mine needs the companion to connect to the internet to be able to go and grab information from Kentico Cloud. In terms of a quick overview of the application, it starts off in resources. So here you can see my index.gui file, which is an SVG file. And here I've laid out all the different screens for the application. I make use of some handy components that Fitbit have already developed. So here you'll see my widgets.gui, things like their square button or their scroll view. These are common UI widgets that you can make use of. In terms of code that runs on the watch, I have my main index file, which is the entry point for the application on the watch. I have a module called Trivia Store, where I'm storing the information on the file system. I have my UI.js file, where I'm doing all of my user interface logic in terms of things like the loading screen, navigation, the lists of birthdays and facts. The companion, the index file in the companion is really just setting up the messaging, and there's a messaging API that you can use to talk between the watch and also the companion. I have a trivia service. This module is responsible for calling into Kentico Cloud and getting the data. And that information is then turned into the following objects. In the common folder, I have a few classes that represent my entities or my content types in Kentico. So I have, for example, birthday. You can see things like name, age, description. I've got my fact, title and factoid, and I have my daily feed, which actually builds it from the Kentico information and then returns sort of a view model. In communicating with Kentico, I just use plain vanilla JavaScript, really to keep the size of the app down, and I also wasn't doing that much with it. But just so you know, Kentico actually has a wide range of SDKs for working with Kentico Cloud, be it .NET, Java, Swift. On the JavaScript side, we have a JavaScript SDK, a Node SDK, and a TypeScript SDK as well. So great starting points if you're building out an app for a smartwatch or any other channel. So that's it. I really enjoyed developing the app for Fitbit on the FitbitOS and using Kentico Cloud as well. I didn't get into the code too much this time, but I have stuck it up on GitHub, so you can find it here. And I might keep working on this to add things in, such as settings on the companion as well. Cheers.